can be asked as questions outside of, like, this is a history session?
Yeah. What Wednesday?
The last 2 Wednesdays of each
Every
month.
last 2 Wednesdays we do this. Here lately for the past, I guess 6 months, I've been bringing things out to the Quran classes. And we talk about it because we've become more powerful and more, what did you say, more accessible by sharing this information as opposed to holding it. Some things we do hold because it is of a nature that, not that you should know it, but it is of a nature of an adept that you probably wouldn't be able, we would have to go through a whole lot to explain it to you. And then these letters carry the spirit. Those who wrote it and handle it, sometimes when you handle these letters, the spirit can be so strong. You know, like I read some things I read this morning, but not all of them, because it would be hard for you to take. You'd be up all night thinking about it. It overwhelmed some of this information. One of them I read about the Army and the Navy would not do you any good. You read that yourself now, that it would be overpowerful. Who had the hand? But hold on. We'll give you the time and address. If you want.
Okay, because I'm trying to understand, based on what was going on in America at the time that those letters was written, the time that Moses Ali was physically here, and what's going on in America today, the way the government has changed. There has been a change in the structure of government. So I'm trying to understand the relationship to the Moors then and then now, and how the Moors, because I mean, I've been exposed to different groups of Moors, people that say they Moors and different information. So I'm just trying to understand how you all are seeing that.
Okay, let me address that. First of all, we're Moorish Americans, and I have to say it this way. All of our people are Moors. Now, many of our people who are Moors, and technically they are not Moorish Americans until they belong to a temple that's authorized by the Prophet himself. The Moorish American, the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Americans, are not concerned with as much as what has changed in the government, as much as we are concerned with what will change in the government in terms of the flag switching. So we are not concerned with the mere ideas of man, and all of a sudden everybody knows everything, they know more than the prophet. And we've heard some of that, and I am very careful, and will say rhetoric, because that's all it is, rhetoric. Most of them that come up with that can't prove it, and they operate in a venue that is not religious. Okay? When the prophet first organized our group, he organized us as a civic corporation. That means civically, it's okay to file affidavit after affidavit and get involved with 1929, this, that, and that. We want to approach it that way, as a civic organization. But when he changed the organization to religious, everything we do is religious. So we look at all of our actions as religious. Even proclaiming Moorish American is our religion. It's a religious corporation. The members of this corporation are required to say and do certain things and to call themselves certain things, and that certain thing is a Moorish American Muslim. These are one of the many tenets of our requirements as being a corporate citizen of this religious corporation. So we don't approach everything civically. We approach whatever's going on in this government and any place else with a religious feel, because we are a religious corporation. Now, what many Moorish Americans out there who advocate this and that and so forth and so on, they haven't had the opportunity to read or comprehend the editorial that the Prophet sent out when he said he was forced to make changes. We didn't make those changes, he did. And the changes he made set the organizational structure in place as a central authority. In every organization, you got to have central authority. If you don't, you have chaos. And right now, amongst our people, we have chaos. Some saying that they're all for sovereignty. Some saying they're for sovereignty. They don't want to drive without any license. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And they approach these issues through civic ways. We don't approach anything what we have to do civically in concerns of this government and any government we live in. It could be Mexico or Cuba. We approach it as religious. That's it. Because when he was forced to make changes, he stated emphatically, one amongst many things in there, that for those who don't know where the seat of power is, you know, who he had put in place to act as a supreme, as him, how's he saying it? As a supreme body to act. No group out there has the official, has to act officially for the Moorish Science Temple of America unless they get the authorization from the central authority that the prophet put in place, which is the supreme grand body. Some people said he dissolved it, but there's no proof. When we check the records and check how the prophet put it up, and he even said it, all power, not some of it, is in those who he...
His message not a prophet, those who are appointed to act as the supreme body.
As the same prophet, supreme body. Without a central authority, you got chaos. So, there are those like, and I'm going to say it, the Kirkman Bays and the Gibbons Hill and all them, they didn't want to see the central authority in place because they never wanted togetherness. For some reason, or the entities they represented did not want to see that. To see that meant unity. To see that meant forward. To see that meant the prophet's plan, divine plan of ages was marching on strong, untattered. So to destroy the central authority, or to control or destroy, was their design. Which is why Kirkman Bay put Supreme Grand Advisor and Moderator. Even though that was not a place on the Supreme Grand Council for that, he created that. First, the first word is supreme. So that he could not only sit on the Supreme Grand Council, but he could be over the Supreme Grand Council and over the Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman and anybody else. Even over the prophet, if you will. He could have said advisor and moderator, but he could not get on the Supreme Grand Council because he was not appointed that position. Now some people say, well, the Supreme Grand Council is no more. If you got a Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman, you got a Supreme Grand Council because that person is the one who fills those vacancies. Then and fills them now. If you got one, he fills those vacancies. I appoint him for him. We have open vacancies now in the Supreme Grand Council that we have to fill. That's how you ensure the continuity of the organization. It's the same as the College of Cardinals. When the Pope passes, the Cardinals all get together and they select somebody else to be the Pope. So it's different from what they call the snakehead organization. Cut off the head of the snake and then they just go. It's not set up. And many of our people on our side of the nation, they don't, some of them are good Moors, they're good. But they haven't had the opportunity to get an understanding of what the prophet wanted and how he wanted and how he said it should be done. I was one of them at one time. I didn't know. I did not know. I didn't know. But when the opportunity was presented to me to know the unauthorized temple I was at, I left and came to temple number 1 and gave him everything I had and still doing it. I wasn't one of those who went back and forth. I was sold. I was sold. And one of the purposes of reading this history is not so much to tell you, come on over. If you come, fine. If you don't, fine. That's between you and Allah. We're not trying to recruit by reading these records. What we're trying to do is to give our people the opportunity to have access to the truth. We're always going to make our own choice, but to have access to the truth, which many of our people did not have. And so every year during convention, we found out that these Moorish American archive reviews are helpful for them and for some of our scholars too, who do nothing but study the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's what we do. Because inquiring minds want to know. mentally ill is forgotten about by most groups, so they don't want to even mention him. They don't want to bring him up. Because to bring him up would have to bring up the whole truth about our organization and how many of those culprits tried to sweep that under the rug. By sweeping that under the rug, you'd be like running around with no head. You know, you just capturing stuff. You know, we don't believe, let me just rephrase that. There may be something to not paying taxes. Legally, as citizens. There may be something to it. We don't know. But it may be something we should investigate and look at as a whole. But if you got a little group, we don't pay nothing. Oh, you don't here, put them up. Our goal is to mobilize all of our people at once and speak with one hand and one heart. Like the prophet intended us to do. A central authority for any corporation is necessary. And if you hide that and try to operate on your own, you're going to be doomed like some of the letters we read here. The prophet was very strict about his organization. He said, you do anything other than my way, you're going to be in trouble. And that should be a good lesson for anybody who's sitting out here now who's not doing things the prophet's way. You better stop. You better stop. You better stop for yourself and for people who love you and your family. Because you ain't going to do nothing but get in trouble. I didn't say that. See, I don't advocate that. I just stand behind the prophet's word. What he said, I'm with it. 110,000%.